And I decided that if I wanted these types of stories that would inspire people and let us see the good in the world out there, I should do something about it. And that kind of was one of the motivations for writing more and more stories about people and organizations that inspire me. Like, there's value in random acts of kindness, but there's value in us every day saying, I'm going to make the world a better place today. And looking for that opportunity, whether it's like lending someone $20, whether it's sending someone a thank you note, letting them know why you appreciate them. If you know someone going through a rough time, reaching out to them. But I think it's really about being intentional. One overarching theme that stands out is that it's easy to make a huge impact. We could look at the news and think, oh my goodness, like our world is going down the drain. There's like war, crime, corruption, mass shootings. There's so much negativity. And in writing the book, I realized and saw that there's all these small, seemingly trivial moments that have this ripple effect and change thousands and thousands of lives.
Welcome to the Kindest Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in the world. I am so excited. I'm Randy McNeely. I'm the kindness giver, and are known as the kindness giver. I'm here joined with my wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris, the happiness doctor. And this is the inaugural episode of the Kindness Factor podcast, where we are here to share life-changing personal stories of the powerful and transformational impact of kindness. And we are so privileged today to be joined with by an amazing man, I should say, Brad Aronson, who is the author of a wonderful national bestseller called HumanKind, Changing the World One Small Act at a Time. NPR said you'll love this book. Deepak Chopra has also commented and said it's elegant and wise. And the beautiful thing is that he also has some feedback from Forbes magazine. That's right, I said that. The most uplifting and life-affirming book in years. And one of the things that is so amazing about Brad is that he truly cares about people. And he cares about wonderful organizations such as Big Brothers and Big Sisters. In fact, all the proceeds from his book go to that amazing organization. Brad is deeply involved with youth nonprofits. He's on the board of Big Brothers and Big Sisters and HopeWorks, and he teaches entrepreneurship in Camden, New Jersey. Everyone in his class starts a business, and that has led to all kinds of adventures. Brad, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's a privilege to have you here.
welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me. It's fun to be here.
Well, let me, just start off by saying, it really is a thrill to have you here, Brad. You have done a tremendous thing in creating this beautiful book. And, I'd like to ask you we would like to ask you just a few questions. First of all, you wrote your book about moments when small acts of kindness had a tremendously transformational impact in your personal life, as well as in the lives of all the people that you interviewed. What can you tell us about that? Could you share some, is there one moment that sticks out to you, or a few moments that really stick out to you that had a powerful impact?
So I'd say, one overarching theme that stands out is that it's easy to make a huge impact. We could look at the news and think, oh my goodness, like our world is going down the drain. There's like war, crime, corruption, mass shootings. There's so much negativity. And in writing the book, I realized and saw that there's all these small, seemingly trivial moments that have this ripple effect and change thousands and thousands of lives. And it's empowering to see that and know that. And I'll share one of the stories that they all resonated with me. Of course I can't pick out a favorite, but I'll share the story about Larry Stewart. So he was working and his employer went out of business, owing him 3 paychecks.
Oh my God.
And because of that, he became homeless. So he's living in his car. He's sleeping under his clothing as blankets, and he went 2 days without eating. So finally, he goes into this restaurant, the Dixie Diner. He orders breakfast. He has no idea how he's going to pay for it, but he's just so hungry. He goes and he orders it. He eats this breakfast, and then he starts looking around on the floor, acting like he dropped his wallet and he can't find it. And the cook, who's also the owner, comes out from behind the counter and says, "Oh, you must have dropped this," and gave him $20 because the cook wanted him to save his dignity. And
Wow.
It was amazing. So Larry, pays for his meal, leaves, and vows that when I'm back on my feet, I'm going to help other people to pay it forward. And Larry did get back on his feet. And his first act of kindness was he was at this drive-through restaurant where they bring the food to your car. And the woman bringing the food to him, like it was winter, and her jacket had all these holes and it was clearly not keeping her warm. And he gave her some money, said, "Here, this is for you." And she burst out in tears and said, "You don't know how much this means to me." And he thought to himself, I absolutely know how much.
You do, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like things got better for him. And he decided that he would just start giving out money as a secret Santa because he wanted to do it anonymously. And he didn't want people to wait in line or have to apply for it. He wanted it to be done just out of love. And he would go to the police departments and the fire departments and say, "Who do you know in the community who needs help?" And he would go to places where people had minimum wage jobs, or he'd go to Goodwill and, give out money. And people would say, like, you could see these posts online from people who got money from him. And they would say, "Oh my goodness, like we weren't going to have Christmas this year, or our electricity was turned off and we got to turn it back on." And he saw that every time someone wrote in the media about Secret Santa, there would be this influx of new people becoming Secret Santas because they had this website where you could communicate and be part of the community. And, unfortunately, years after doing this, he was diagnosed with cancer. And, he knew that he was going to die and he wanted to get the word out. And a tabloid was going to reveal who he was. And he thought, I'll do it on my own terms with the hope of getting new Secret Santas. And he went out and talked about being a Secret Santa and why he did it. And it was incredible.
Why did he do it? No, why did he do it? I'm curious. Why did he do that? Like, what motivated him to do that?
He did it because he felt like Ted Horn, the owner of that diner, like gave him that $20 in such a kind and compassionate way that he wanted to pay it forward. And what's interesting is that actually about 20 years after that, he went and tracked down Ted Horn, and Larry Stewart visited him and said, "You changed my life with that $20. And now I've devoted my life." Now that Larry was a successful entrepreneur and had this money, he wound up giving away $1.4 million. And then when he finally revealed himself, thousands of people signed up. And now there's all these other people who are Secret Santas around the world giving away money.
You know what's beautiful about that, Brad? And it's not even about, you actually gave us some actual numbers, but that $20 bill became 1.4 million, became millions as you paid it forward and expanded to other Secret Santas. And it was such a small act, like really somebody coming from the back of the counter and saving someone's dignity. It's such a small act. It didn't require a boatload of money, right? It was such a small act, but the ripple effect through him is enormous, and it's so beautiful. And that's only one person, right? That made such a huge difference. I love that story. That's so beautiful.
Thank you. And like a cool little corollary is when Larry died, they set up a foundation in his honor to get money to be used by the Secret Santas. And the first donation came from a Kansas City parking attendant named Sam Williams. And he wanted to give this gift in memory of Larry, who gave him a gift as a Secret Santa. And Sam said that Larry gave him the biggest gift he ever received, and he wanted to pay it forward. It's like you're saying, these small acts, what I saw is it didn't take much, and the ripple effect was enormous.
And think about that. Think about how, we always use the analogy of a drop of water going into something dropping into the water and making a splash and seeing the ripples go out from that. All the people around the world that have been affected by that one drop, the first drop that Ted made for Larry, and then Larry, all those drops that he put in, and all the people, we have no idea. You have no idea how many people have truly been impacted just because of that first small act. Think about what that says about, what can we learn from that? In fact, Elio, you had a question that I want to ask Brad. What did you learn from that?
Yeah, and I also wanted to say, oftentimes we hear the phrase random acts of kindness. I don't believe that. I don't think those are random. I think those are conscious, mindful, loving acts of kindness that have that impact. It's not random. So how do you speak to that, perhaps?
I agree with you 100%. Like, there's value in random acts of kindness, but there's value in us every day saying, I'm going to make the world a better place today, and looking for that opportunity, whether it's like lending someone $20, whether it's sending someone a thank you note, letting them know why you appreciate them. If you know someone going through a rough time, reaching out to them. But I think it's really about being intentional and deciding, this is what I want to do.
Exactly. Maybe we should just call that intentional acts of love, intentional acts of kindness. I don't think anything is really random, because even if it appears random, they had to make a choice somewhere. Even if it was a last minute choice, they see something or see somebody in need and they go and rescue them or give them $20, for example. But it's a mindful, conscious choice. So, oh my gosh, you've touched my heart. You've already made my day, and it is my wedding anniversary today. You already given me the gift. I don't need anything else besides this. You have just, the chemicals in my brain are just dancing right now because I feel so inspired by what you just shared.
I'll tell you, sorry, Brad, I'm going to say one thing. Elia, if you feel inspired by that one story, go get Brad's book.
I will.
HumanKind is so chock full of touching, loving stories like that. In fact, Brad, what was it that inspired you to write HumanKind in the first place? What drove you to write that?
So I had a few inspirations. One of them was the high school graduation of a mentee of mine. So she went to a school called Girard College, which is actually a high school in Philadelphia, despite the name. And at her graduation, like on one side of me was this 70-something-year-old guy. And he told me that he graduated from Girard and the school changed his life. So he comes back every single year since he graduated to support the next generation of graduates. And there's a part in the ceremony where you sing the school song. This guy stood up and belted it out so proudly. And on the other side of me was this mom, and she was crying. She said she thought her daughter would be dead or in jail, and here she was graduating. And the commencement speaker talked about how this was an amazing day because the students at Girard had defied the odds. They were from areas of Philadelphia where it was expected that many of them would drop out of school, that few of them would go on to college. Yet every single graduating senior had been accepted to college. And I felt like I was in an inspirational movie. You just felt this warmth. And the speaker went on to say, unfortunately, these students are entering a world of negativity where there's so much negativity. And the news covers primarily the negative, that you won't see a story about Girard tomorrow. So, of course, the next day I get up, I get online. There's nothing about Girard. So I get our daily newspaper, the Philadelphia Inquirer, look at every page. There's nothing. And I felt like heartbroken. If people heard the stories of these students, heard about the odds they overcame, they would be lifted up. Like, you'd feel amazing, but it wasn't out there. And I decided that if I wanted these types of stories that would inspire people and let us see the good in the world out there, I should do something about it. And that kind of was one of the motivations for writing more and more stories about people and organizations that inspire me.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, so.
And you've just only shared 2 stories. I can't wait to read your book, Brad, honestly. Wow, after this. And your heart comes through, even through Zoom. We haven't met in person. I hope that one day we'll meet. I come out to the East Coast a lot, so I hope one day we can sit down and break bread together. But your heart is golden. And I don't know much about technology. Randy is the technology expert, but I do know people, and you're golden, man. You're golden. And the way you tell the stories, because you're a storyteller too, right? I mean, you have a way of communicating those stories that's just truly inspiring. I'm just grateful that you're on our podcast today. I'm just blown away first thing in the morning here. Wow.
Thank you. I mean, I love stories. So I love telling stories. I love reading stories. And I hope that when you come to the East Coast, we can break bread together, because that'll be fun.
I promise you, we will. We will do it.
Absolutely have
Let's
to do
manifest
that.
it. Let's manifest that. Yes.
Absolutely have to do that. So, Brad, I've read your book twice now. That's how much it the one story that stands out to me, I'm wondering if you'd share just a little bit about Max. Tell us about, if you can, tell us about Max or any other story that stands out to you that you'd like to share about. But I just really liked, that one kind of stood out to me because of what happened with him. Do you remember? Can you share that with us?
I can. So Max was a young man who was living in a group home, like a foster home with lots of kids and some adults that took care of them. And, he was playing basketball with friends, and someone had a mentor, and he's like, "Hey, how'd you get that mentor?" And they said, "You sign up with Big Brothers Big Sisters." So he signed up, and this guy, Steve, was in college and signed up to become a mentor, and they were matched. And Steve said when he went to the group home, he gets in and Max answers the door. Steve's like, "Hey, I'm here to see Max." And Max doesn't say a word and just kind of mumbles. And Max was humongous. So Steve assumed that he was the person who was the counselor at the home. And finally he realizes it's Max. He's like, "Max, you want to come play basketball?" And soon all the kids in the house were hanging around because they all wanted this adult in their life, and they wanted Steve as their big brother. So he helped them get big brothers. But Steve and Max wound up building this incredibly tight relationship where, Steve would visit him at school, and they'd go to movies together, and they were DJs together at a radio station. And they did all these things. And Max was a football player. He loved football. He played some college football. And when he decided, when he was done with school and was in a job, he decided he would coach. And he coached Pop Warner youth football. And, he's coached thousands and thousands of kids. And all the kids know Steve. He coaches in an area with underserved youth. So like there's a real need for male role models. There's a need for like a community that the team brings to bear. And, the parents say that Max is always there. All the kids have his phone number. If they do badly in school, Max shows up at school to talk to the principal. Like he's looking after them. And Steve, who is a consultant and flies all over the world, always makes it to the big football games. And they joke that people who aren't on the team are not allowed on the field, but they'll be at a championship, and somehow Steve will show up at the bench, and everyone knows, all these kids are like, "Oh, it's Max's brother, Steve." And they love him, and they gave him, they won. And I guess even in the Pee Wee leagues, you get like these rings. So he has a championship ring. He has a team jacket that they gave him that says #1 fan. And, Max is a part of his family and comes to their house every year for Christmas and is very close with Steve's children now. And they have this amazing relationship. And what happened was Steve signed up to be a big brother. He mentored Max. Max wanted to pay it forward. And now it's incredible. It's actually over 10,000 kids that Max has mentored through football. Many of whom have actually gone pro and now come back to help with the program where Max coaches. And it's just had this beautiful ripple effect.
You know what's beautiful about that story is that Max has coached over 10,000 kids football, but he's really coached them about life.
Yes.
It's not even about the football or popcorn. Really, he's coached them about how to live life the right way.
And what you're bringing up, something that's I've seen in youth development. Like, if you want to connect with youth and you want to like help serve them and be a role model, you do it through something they love. Like the kids who love football, you're going to love them and show them how to grow up to be great adults and be there and coach them through football. If kids love music, put them in a music program where they can meet their mentors there, or art through an art program. It's like building that connection through that shared interest.
That's beautiful. You've got a gazillion stories, and we could talk about them all day long. It could go for a long time. I'd love to hear your stories. I would like to ask you, what's some kindness-related advice that you'd like to share with our audience? I mean, you just gave a little bit in what you just said, but what's some, you've talked with hundreds of people when you were writing HumanKind. You learned a lot about ways that we can help people going through, challenges or going through a rough time. And heaven knows, our world right now, there's so many people going through challenges and having a rough time. What's some advice you would give to our audience with regards to how they might, bless people's lives through kindness?
So I have a lot of ideas here, and I'll try to boil them down into something reasonable.
Give us your top three.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the guidelines. I need those.
Yeah.
I start by saying all of us know someone who's going through a rough time, right? We all know someone who's going through a rough time. Often we don't reach out to them. We think it might be awkward. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. I don't know them that well. I don't know what to say. Randy, as you mentioned, I interviewed hundreds of people going through a rough time for the book, HumanKind. And there was one thing that every person agreed on. And I used to work in advertising. We did a lot of market research. I don't remember finding anything that everyone agreed on. But one thing that everyone I talked to who was going through a rough time agreed on was that it made a difference when they were seen. And being seen means a note saying, hey, I was thinking of you, sending a hug. Or I thought you'd like this joke, or I thought you'd like this book, or here's an Amazon gift certificate. Go, buy yourself a great movie. But that's being seen. And they said when you're going through a really difficult time, knowing that someone's thinking of you gives you the strength to carry through for a week.
So true.
Yeah. And the point about I don't know what to say, we don't have to bring up what someone's going through. And if someone shares with you, so they tell you what they're going through, often our inclination as a human is we want to make it feel better. So we're trying to think what can I say that'll make them feel better? How can I show them that it'll be okay? What I heard is people don't need that. They're just sharing. And often what they really appreciate is if we just say, thank you for sharing. Just thank you for sharing. They don't want us to solve their problems. And if you don't know what to say, that's the easiest thing to say. I've been teaching for decades at this point, and I teach young people who have been through significant traumas. And often they share really difficult moments from their life with me. And ever since kind of writing this book, I now just say after someone shares, thank you for sharing that with me. And the reaction is always the same. My student smiles and thanks for listening, and they appreciate that. So that's all we need to say. Also, I would advise to do something. I used to think, if someone's going through a rough time, I'll ask them, let me know what you need and I'll do that for you. But it turns out a lot of people don't know what they need, or they're too shy to wind up asking, or maybe this is the first time they've needed help. And they appreciate it if you just show up and shovel their driveway, or say, hey, I'm taking my kids to a baseball game. Can I take your kids with me? Or I baked a lasagna. I made an extra one for you. Or I'm going to Trader Joe's. What can I get for you? Which is a beautiful way of asking. It's not, do you need groceries? Do you want me to pick them up? I'm going. What can I get for you while I'm there? But doing something makes a huge difference. And then, a couple other thoughts is one, often when we say hello to someone, we say, hey, how you doing? We don't even expect them to respond. It's like, just like, greeting, hey, how you doing? And then you walk by. If someone's going through a rough time and you're like, hey, how you doing? What goes through their mind, I've heard, is I'm doing pretty poorly, but this person probably doesn't want to hear that. So I just lie and say, oh, it's fine. Or do I tell them and then have to get into this discussion? And what we can just say to them is, hey, it's great to see you, because it's great to see them. And we're not asking them to say anything or putting them in that awkward position.
You know what's really interesting about what you said is that's a cultural thing. I'm Greek. In Greece, if you ask someone how they're doing, they will tell you exactly how they're doing, even if they're doing poorly. Like, oh, let me tell you. So
they're going to hold back, are they?
Right? They have almost like no filter or TMI. They'll tell you above and beyond what you're. So be careful if you ask somebody how are you doing, because you will get it. That's funny.
I love that. So I was once in a business meeting, and in the middle of the meeting, we had clients from Europe, and they were like, "Can I talk to you?" And they pulled me aside and they said, "People keep asking me how I'm doing, and then they walk by without waiting for me to respond. Why do they do that?" And I was like, "Well, here it's just a way of saying hello."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, why don't they just say hello? Like, usually you stop and listen." As you said, it's a cultural thing.
A cultural thing, big time. Yes, that's a funny story though.
Well, it's kind of interesting that we have those things because we really don't even think about it. It's because it is such a cultural thing. It's like we take it for granted. We just say, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And then just keep going. We don't even stop and think about it. But if you really care about people, you do stop and say, "How are you doing?" Or just like you said, Brad, "It's great to see you. I'm glad you're here." Somebody might respond to that. I had somebody tell me after I had a stent put in my heart and got out of the hospital and stuff, and somebody said, "Randy, it's really great to see you." And I said, "It is great to be seen." It's great to be. So that is great. Elia, I think did you want to add something else?
I just had, and I wrote this in my book actually, that when we first moved to the United States, I was a young kid, and we used to go for a walk around the neighborhood. I grew up in Santa Monica in Southern California, and my dad, we're just Greek, we're open, so he used to ask, "How are you?" And everybody would answer with the word, "I'm fine, fine, fine." Everybody would say they're fine. And I remember coming home one day with him, and he said, "There's no way everybody's fine." Because that was the automatic answer. He didn't believe, because in Greece, we expect people to actually tell the truth, and most of the times they're not fine. So he was having a hard time believing the response when he would say, "How you doing?" "Fine," and everybody fine. Again, it was it's fascinating to me, from a sociological point of view. But getting back to the crux of the matter, human beings have two great needs. And the first one is to be loved. Obviously, that's pretty universal. But the second one, I believe, is to feel understood or be seen. And so you're speaking our language. And thank you for sharing those stories. Those are beautiful stories. Being seen is one of the most wonderful gifts we can give to another human being.
Yes.
Well, we could talk for a long, long time, Brad. I just you are speaking our language, and we love the stories that you've shared. We appreciate so much the advice that you've given. How can our audience connect with you and get a copy of HumanKind, get a copy of your book?
Well, you could connect with me through my website, bradaronson.com. And from there, you could connect on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. If you want to copy the book, you could buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or other retailers that are of interest as an audio, ebook, or print book. And again, if you want to buy the book, that's awesome. All the proceeds go to Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is a nonprofit that's very near and dear to my heart.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you for being on our show. I hope, I know this is a big ask, but at some point I'd like to have you back again, because you just whetted our appetite about, kindness and love and giving and being seen and connecting with people and making this world a better place. I'm sure you have. I can't wait to read your book. As soon as we're done, I'm ordering it right now. And thank you for being on our show. Thank you for being our first wonderful guest. And I look forward to seeing you either in Philly, New York, somewhere on the East Coast. We'll connect for sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, we will. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Hello, my friends. I'm Randy McNeely, co-host for the Kindness Factor podcast and co-creator of the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Thank you so much for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you. Kindness has totally transformed our lives, and we're dedicated to paying it forward by raising our voices for kindness. Why? Because kindness is love in action, and it's love that touches hearts and truly changes lives. Now, if that resonates with you, we invite you to join us in our efforts to pay it forward. Here's how you can do that. First, subscribe to the Kindness Factor podcast at the link below. You can pay up to $10 per month. Your support will enable us to continue to deliver great content and take our message to a much broader audience. Second, email 5 people you believe that our efforts will resonate with and invite them to do the same thing. Finally, like or subscribe to all of our social media channels listed below. Remember, with kindness, everybody wins. Thank you for your support.